Thank you for joining me. As always, I'm your Foul Player, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Foul Playland. I have a very special guest with me this afternoon. Um, this guest is the illest baseball mind in the world. There's nobody that is getting scoops like him for being a young guy. How old are you, Steph?
Just turned 28.
All right, for
That's
somebody
about it.
as young as he is, happy birthday too, man. But as
Thank you,
somebody
brother. Appreciate it.
somebody as young as he is, he has one of the most creative minds when it comes to baseball. And following that up, he's now getting scoops at a higher rate than like anybody that's even 10 years older than him, I think. And it's more like I think a lot of it has to do with his mind, and he's predicting these things prior to even happening, putting a lot of sense to the game. And then these things turn out to be true. But I wanted to bring him onto the stage. My man, Steph Lover, Steph
Appreciate you, man.
Steven Martinez, man. Like, how you been, man? Let us know.
Appreciate it. I'm good, brother. I am busier than a bee in the summertime, man. This is with the pandemic and all sports returning. I am busier than a person should be at this point, but I'm happy to be this busy. So we're all healthy. I hope everybody on your side is healthy. Um, throughout this pandemic. But let's jump right into it, and let me ask you this question because I know you're gonna ask
Well,
me.
before we do that though, could you let the people know where we could find you, like as far as on social media and whatnot?
Um, you can find me at Stephen3CM on Twitter. You can find me at Stephen Martinez on Facebook, and you can find me at Stephen Martinez 300 on Instagram. So again, we'll give you those social media handles again. You know, before the show ends, so you can follow me on all my social networks or whatnot. But I'm all over the place, man. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So, um, but where the major reporting gets done is on Facebook and Twitter. So,
Excellent. And also, I forgot to mention in your list of accolades, the illest off the top freestyler,
stop,
New York
stop,
City has ever
stop,
seen. Somebody that could
stop,
freestyle about baseball for 2 minutes straight, bro.
stop,
My
stop,
man, no,
man.
let me get right into it though, man. Like the order of the day. I mean, like, and the reason I wanted to bring you on is this reported Mookie Betts signing.
Hmm.
You just reported the numbers via Facebook as far as what the brass taxes and how much it was right
Hmm.
before the stream started.
Hmm.
Reportedly, could you let the people know what the numbers are?
Uh, some people have it at 12 at 360, but I was told it's 13 at 38. So depending on who you speak to, the numbers tend to vary depending on if people, who you speak to, whether it be in Mookie Betts' camp, it'd be at the Dodgers camp, or it'd be just around baseball in general. But you're in the vicinity of $37.5 million, which is all that people care about. Because if you remember, Garrett Cole signed his deal with the Yankees at 36 million a year, and we all know that Mookie Betts wanted to be the second highest player in the game behind Mike Trout. So if that is the order of the day, then you're looking at Mookie Betts making about $37.5 million a year for the next 12 to 13 years wearing Dodger blue.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of bread for Mookie. But I mean, needless to say, I think Mookie's a fantastic player, and I think you'll agree with me on that end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what's your overall general thoughts as far as this deal goes? And were you surprised that it being consummated too?
No, I wasn't surprised that the Dodgers locking him up. I wasn't surprised that both sides were able to come to a deal, but I was surprised at the timing of the deal. Right before opening day, 60-game season, shortened season, heightened expectations. You would have thought they would have given him a year, see if he's comfortable in Los Angeles, and then go from there. But the fact that he's already at the point where he's comfortable He's comfortable enough with Dave Roberts, with Andrew Friedman, with the whole establishment in Los Angeles. I'm not surprised this got done, but I am surprised at the timing of the deal. because I thought he would have taken this season as a feeling out period, but I guess he wanted to jump in with both feet. You can't get better than Los Angeles at the prime time of your career. Beautiful weather. Um, just about to turn 28. You can't beat it. So I guess he said, I'm going to take the money while it's here, then me hit the open market in a year, and the Dodgers may not be able to consummate this deal. So you give him, his agent, Rock Nation, everybody at his, you know, in his stable credit for realizing the Dodgers are going to give me this money, so let me go get it now.
Yeah, I forgot that he was represented by Rock Nation because it seems like
Mm-hmm.
Rock Nation is that's kind of like their staple to get these big deals in these
Right,
weird situations.
right,
Robinson Cano, where they had no second bidder that was even near what the Seattle Mariners were offering. But yeah,
right.
this is another one. But it's not. I mean, I think he's a better player than Cano was at that point.
And he's
But
much younger than what Cano was when he signed his deal. So let's not forget that, because Cano was 30. Mookie
yeah,
Betts is 28. That's 2 years difference. And if I could just make this point too, we're going to get into this, I'm sure, because, I think this has a lot to do with it too. You got to remember, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, we've already seen how both sides, in terms of baseball and the labor negotiations, and they fought to get the 60-game season done. I wonder how this would have affected a full season, where, if you're fighting for 60 games and then the new collective bargaining agreement has to be negotiated at the end of the 21 season, it officially expires on December 1st, 2021. You get the sense that Mookie Betts saw that and went, I don't want to gamble on this because we don't know, number one, what the money would have looked like in a year from now. And if we would have had baseball in a year from now, especially with not only the coronavirus pandemic, but just everything that's going on with the two sides and their labor relations.
yeah, definitely, man. Well, in the adverse, as far as like, I asked you if you were surprised if this got consummated, and you mentioned more of a Mookie Betts perspective. Are you surprised as far as the Dodgers making this happen?
Yes, and here's why. If you follow Andrew Friedman, the president of the Dodgers, he is more of the type of the type of GM that is very cerebral. He doesn't make big deals usually, and you got to remember where he came from, Tampa. He signed Blake Snell to the 5-year, $10 million, $10 million a year deal, which is $50 million. He didn't really venture out into the big deals until Garrett Cole. He was in the $300 million range for him before the Yankees snatched him up. He wanted to do something with the Indians and Francisco Lindor, but that never seriously got consummated. They exchanged names back and forth, but the Dodgers weren't willing to give up on some of their top prospects, including Gavin Lutz, who they just optioned, by the way. He's not going to make the big club out of summer camp. What a gimmicky name, summer camp. But, I mean, he still has so much upside. The kid is only 22 years old. So you understand that they want him to get more seasoning at the minor league level, but he will be a part of their team this season. But am I surprised that the Dodgers did it? And the answer in the short term is yes. Just because I didn't think that their front office moved this way. But one thing I want to point out, and I think it needs to be pointed out, is the Dodgers don't have anybody committed on their books till after the 2022 season. So they have room to go sign Mookie Betts, as they're about to do. They want to give Bellinger the big long-term extension, which I wouldn't doubt. And the other name that I would watch is Walker Buehler. If you can get the three killer bees locked up where you got the ace of the staff in a 26-year-old Walker Buehler, you have Cody Bellinger, who's about to turn 26 himself, and you got Mookie Betts, who's about to turn 28. You have three generational type of talents all locked up before the age of 30 and under club control, which is something that I think the Dodgers are prioritizing at this moment in time.
Um, and with speaking of a shortened season,
Mm-hmm.
had Mookie Betts lit up the world like in this shortened season, could you have
Mm-hmm.
seen him getting a lot more money than what he's got with the Dodgers?
If there was no coronavirus pandemic and we had a full 162 game season, I could have seen him making $40 million a year fairly easily, because if you look at the deal for what it is now, it's between 360 and 380, which puts him at 36 to 38 million dollars per, which still puts you in a very, 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 very good position. So I could have seen him making $40 million in a full season. I think, however, the fact, like I said, you're mentioning labor disputes, labor laws, people, in baseball predicting doom for the sport in terms of, the two sides, the owners and the players not agreeing to, basic terms of a return to play. I think that played a part in his decision making. But I think for him, you got to do what's best for your family. He just had a child maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So he wanted to get himself established, his family established, and the Dodgers gave him that opportunity, and he took it.
Yeah, definitely, man. No, I mean, I really see it as a win for Mookie Betts. I mean, I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
say it's a dud for the Dodgers,
No,
but it is very not extremely risky, but there is a level of risk um, in that LA is not a hard city to get acclimated to, but it's definitely not Boston. And
right.
Boston is not the easiest place to get acclimated to either, especially as a brother.
Right.
The
In terms of, let me make something very clear. In terms of risk assessment, any deal of this magnitude has risk. Injuries, a slip in production, age. This all has risk associated with it. But if you look at the potential upside for at least the next 5 to 7 years, you're talking about one of the top five players in the game of baseball. Is that an arguable point by me? I mean, am I seeing things that are not true, Joe? I mean, this guy's production level is as good as they come year in and year out. And even, he had a down year the last couple of years, and your man still averaged 30 homers, close to 100 RBIs. His OPS was close to 400. I mean, and mind you, he's a leadoff hitter, hitting
yeah,
30
I
home
know.
runs a year and giving you the type of production he gives you. I mean, there's risk associated in any deal. But let me ask you, foul player, if it's your money, if it's your bag, if it's your vault, do you go to him and say, "Hey, man, here's this money," or do you wait him out? What are you doing? What do you think the Dodgers did? Let me flip the question and ask you.
No, certainly. I mean, it as far as what you just mentioned, Mookie Betts being a leadoff that does provide pop. He's a
Mm-hmm.
model citizen as far as on and off the field. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to find a player that could lead off the way Mookie Betts has led off
Mm-hmm.
in the last like couple decades. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with the
Listen, we're talking about Ricky Henderson type of skills with the speed, the defense, the power. This is Ricky Henderson esque right here, and he
yeah,
may be a better fielder than Ricky Henderson was in Ricky Henderson's prime. And that's saying something, because Ricky Henderson in his prime was no joke when he was in Oakland, when he was with the Yankees, when Ricky Henderson was in his prime, he was as versatile could get. And you get the same feeling with Mookie Betts. Now, here's my
and Betts is
thing.
a better player.
I agree. I agree with you. The thing that I'm concerned with, and the thing that I think about often, is if we're talking about a once in a generational type of talent with the money that's being associated with him, I think this contract is perfect for where he is and perfect for where the Dodgers are, because they're on the ascent right now. You have a young team like I just mentioned, Cody Bellinger, 26, Walker Buehler, 26, Mookie Betts, 28, Gavin Lux, 24. I mean, I can keep going. We're talking about a young staff,
Seager.
and Seager's young, and you got versatility all over the place. Max Muncy, Kike Hernandez. Um, it's kind of baffling how you look at what the Dodgers have done, and we're not even talking about what they got in the original Mookie Betts trade when you got a young shortstop in Jeter Downs. You got Brewster Gratterall in the Kenta Maeda deal, which was separate from this deal, which was supposed to go together, which didn't go together. I mean, so we give Andrew Friedman and his staff a lot of credit for number one, getting the bullpen figured out. The starting staff seems to have figured itself out to a degree, and now you hope that your lineup continues to produce at an elite level.
Nah, I give Fried all the credit in the world. In addition to that, too, like a lot of people forget that the Red Sox gave up not so much to get Mookie Betts, man. And Mookie Betts is a
Right.
premier player in the league.
Right.
Verdugo was probably the best player in that little. You think Verdugo or Downs was better in that? And I like Connor Wong, and I like Connor Wong too, man. Connor Wong got a very lively arm, but
I like Verdugo in the sense that he's played at the big league level. He has doubles power right now. His glove is decent. We've seen him, produce at the big league level. Can his doubles power turn into home run power? That's something that I think people in Boston are hoping for, and that you hope that he could stay on the field because he's had a back injury. He's had stuff with his hamstrings. He's had some stuff go awry. So if Alex Verdugo can stay on the field, you're looking at one of the pillars of the future Boston Red Sox. But look, I'll say this, and I think this needs to be said not to excuse the Red Sox because I'm not a Red Sox apologist by any stretch of the imagination. 4 championships in the last 15 years would say that I shouldn't apologize for them because they've done enough winning and they know how to do it. But I'll say this. You got to remember when Chaim Bloom took over, there was scandal. Alex Cora had just gotten fired because of the sign stealing scandal with the Astros and Red Sox. He knew that he was walking into a quote unquote front office in shambles. He didn't have his front office figured out yet. He still has some things he has to figure out in terms of who do we keep, who do we trade, what contracts are tradable, what's movable. Chris Sale got this big money deal. He's missing this entire year with Tommy John surgery. Xander Bogaerts was signed to a 7-year deal before he took over. So there's things that he had to work through before we even talked about Mookie Betts. And to be honest with you, Red Sox ownership made this deal. It wasn't on Chaim Bloom himself. Red Sox ownership, John Henry, Tom Rickey, the whole Boston with Tom Warner, the whole Boston front office was like, we want to keep him, but ownership's like, man, we don't want to keep paying this luxury tax, brother. It's after a while it gets punitive, and they see that, which is
I thought it was a good deal, like from Boston's perspective.
It was a good deal, but I remember talking to you about a year and a half ago. We're gonna peel back the curtain on this because we talk every so often about these matters, and you'll call me and be like, "Yo, what do you think about this?" I was telling you they needed to trade him a year ago. This is something that I was yelling about even at the WKRB days, that if I'm the Red Sox, I consider moving on from Mookie Betts because it's going to get expensive. And if you're already talking about luxury tax issues, and remember, this is when you still had Pablo Sandoval on your books, Hanley Ramirez was still on your books. You had guys that were signed to long-term deals on your books, and you had to get some of that money off. Now, this is before that, and you knew Mookie Betts was going to get, his payday was going to have to come one day or another. So you knew this day was coming, and the Red Sox just didn't equip themselves well enough to position themselves to say, here's our franchise player, we want to sign him. Now, I'll say this. I don't know this to be true for sure. It's been reported by several people. I have been able to confirm it. There was some tensions in terms of Boston tried to give him a $250 million extension for like 10 years. He's like, nah, I don't want that because I think I'm worth more. And like you said, like you alluded to earlier, Boston's not the best place in terms of African Americans playing in Boston. It's not the easiest place for them to assimilate into. I think Mookie did as well of a job as you can do in a difficult environment. Did this play a part in him wanting to leave? I don't know, because I think money ultimately calms and changes the situation. If the Red Sox have said, listen, here's a bag for 10 years at 325, I think he finds a way to assimilate. However, I don't know if after Mike Trout's deal, after, you see what Garrett Cole got, after you see what Christian Yelich failed to get with the Milwaukee Brewers, which is another story for another time, you had to know Mookie Betts wanted to get that money, and he wasn't going to wait until, you know, the end to get it. He told Boston, listen, you need to do what you need to do because I'm going to do what I need to do, and I'm going to look out for me and my family, which is ultimately what necessitated this trade. But it's not an easy position to be in as a GM. It's not an easy position to be in as an organization. We've seen it with plenty of players in the past. You mentioned Robinson Cano with the Yankees a couple years ago. Age, all this plays a factor in. Do we want to make this guy the face of our franchise? Now, on and off the field, Mookie Betts is exemplary. We've touched on that here right now, but you know how it goes, man. You get one down year and production slips, and then people look at you as like, is he worth the money? Listen, for me, Mookie Betts is worth the money. There's no doubt about that. He's worth it 1,000%, yes. But I can understand why teams had their reservations and why this had to be done right now. But I'll spin it forward and say this, Joe, and you're gonna get like physically sick when I make this comment. So if you want to put your head down or run away from the camera, I get it. If Steve Cohen had bought the Mets 6 months earlier, I believe Mookie Betts is wearing Mets orange and blue. Because I said to myself, if you're the Mets and you look at what Steve Cohen reported, what his reported value is, you have to know the Mets would have been in the conversation for him, JT Realmuto, and Francisco Lindor. I think all three would have been feasible because I think Steve Cohen says, screw the luxury tax. I want to win, and I want to win now, and I don't care. I think that plays a part. But I think the fact that the Mets aren't sold yet, the Wilpons continue to field offers or whatever they're doing, I think that hurt your chances to sign a player of this caliber. And I think him knowing, listen, the Yankees aren't doing this because they got Giancarlo Stanton signed for 1,000 years, and Aaron Judge needs his money, and Gary Sanchez needs his money. And you see how Yelich and the Brewers came to terms rather quickly after the season ended. So the Dodgers were in the ideal position to do this from the standpoint that all the big teams had already kind of made their beds. Now you got to see which one fits. And for him, this was the obvious fit. Superstardom, Los Angeles. Oh, and by the way, they got the money to pay me. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, moving forward too, a lot of the players you mentioned earlier, and the fact that the Dodgers have still the illest farm system probably going. In addition to like one of the better lineups in the league, I mean, it's a very favorable place to play, like for a guy like Mookie Betts and anybody in the league.
Right.
And but I'm sorry. Now, what are you gonna say?
No, and let me put it to you this way. This goes to show you that what happens if the Dodgers trade a Dustin May and a Gavin Lux and a, I don't know, let's say Will Smith, the catcher, for Francisco Lindor. Does this change the outcome of trading for a Mookie Betts? Because both guys are going to make an excess of $300 million, I believe. Does this make Francisco Lindor's free agency or trade possibilities a little bit murkier? Yeah, because I don't think the Dodgers do two of these. I think Mookie Betts is the big one, and then we'll filter it out the rest from there with our own guys. Now, this puts Frankie in a very compromising position because do you know anybody that's going to trade for, granted, a all-star shortstop in the middle of a pandemic, knowing he's only got a year left with all the certain uncertainty around the game? I don't know. I don't know that for sure. And I just think this complicates his market even further.
As far as this trade market, yeah, it does. I think a lot of teams will look at Frankie a little bit pessimistically, unless they can get a deal done prior to, because they know the Yankees are lurking. And I think they know Frankie may want to go to the Yankees more likely than not.
Well, I don't know if the Yankees can do it. I don't know if the Yankees can do it from this standpoint.
Frankie's going to the Yankees.
Man, you know what? I'll spin it forward and say if Steve Cohen buys the Mets, I see Frankie Lindor residing in Queens for the next 7 to 10 years. But I think the Mets have to get their money situation squared away first. And here's one of the interesting ones that I think people aren't paying attention to. The Chicago White Sox could be in a prime position to say, you know what, we love Tim Anderson, but if we could get Frankie in the middle of this lineup with Luis Robert and Abreu and a bunch of this crew out here to go with the Dylan Ceases and the pitching that they got in Chicago, the Giolitos, the Ronaldo Lopez's. Chicago's not a bad place to be if you're Francisco Lindor because they have money. They've shown you they have money, and they're not afraid to spend the money. Now they just gave Yasmani Grandal, the catcher, a nice little deal, 4 years at $73 million, which seems like 10 years ago before the coronavirus just destroyed everything. So the White Sox are in a prime position, but I think honestly, and you're a pessimistic Met fan, and I get it. I get it. I'm not arguing with you. You're the Met fan. You have the pessimism. I get it. But if you're looking at it from this standpoint, if the Wilpons decide, you know what, we're gonna sell him to Steve Cohen, we're gonna figure this out. Steve Cohen's the type of guy that I believe he's a big money guy. He's not gonna want the Yankees to keep winning headlines in the city across the river. So this is why I think Frankie's in play. I think James Paxton's in play. I think there are a couple other things that are in play for the Mets down the line. Obviously, you can't see it right now because you're still stuck with a front office and a GM and a ownership group that has their head so far in the sand that we're in a very, very precarious position. How open is the window? I don't know. But I do know that if Steve Cohen comes in and changes the fortunes in terms of what he's able to do financially, this puts the Mets in the conversation along with the Yankees, the Dodgers, Philly. You're in the conversation now as one of the big money spenders in the sport, which is what I think the sport needs.
Do you mind if I foray into the Mets ownership discussion if you have a little bit of time, bro?
Please, I ain't got nothing but time, brother.
No, because I don't get. There's not a lot of this content on the papers and on YouTube, and I do get a little bit more viewers when I discuss Mets sale potential.
Right.
We don't got much, bro. Like as Met fans, man. Like our hope is
Right.
But But what as far as do you think that there's going to be some reservations as far as the rest of the owners of the MLB, being that a lot of them have to come to some sort of consensus for Cohen to ultimately become the owner? Do you think that there's any drawback from the rest of the ownership group?
You mean around the sport?
Around the MLB, like for Cohen to become the owner ultimately.
All right, so this is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna get real with you for a second. The hood might come out of me. I apologize, folks. If I say to you, yo, Joe, listen, man, I got somebody here that's gonna make us more money as owners. You gotta understand, because if the Mets value goes up, the league goes up. The value of the league goes up as a whole, especially when you have a New York franchise going up in value. TV money gets bigger, which means the pot for everybody gets bigger. The whole league gets better when the Mets are better because more money is being spent in New York City, which means it gets filtered down through the rest of Major League Baseball, and you see that money. You understand what I'm saying? So the Mets being good as a byproduct makes baseball more money. You understand what I'm saying? It's like the Knicks. The Knicks are terrible. But you know why? You know why Adam Silver's not doing anything to James Dolan? Because the Knicks are the highest rated franchise in the NBA. You know what that means? More money for the rest of the league. You know, Jim Dolan has to pay that tax to the rest of the 31 owners in the league, which he hates, by the way. But he got to pay it because the New York Knicks are the richest franchise in the NBA. So the same thing could be said here. Now, what does it mean for you as a Met fan or me as an observer who reports on them, who talks about them, who talks to people around them? We don't know because we don't know what type of owner Steve Cohen is going to be. But what we do know is that Steve Cohen's money automatically puts you in a better position to be able to say, I want to go after player X, whatever that player might be. I just think that him bringing the value he brings monetarily, the owners have no choice but to say, we got to get this dude. We got to get him signed. We got to make sure that He's able to buy the Mets because that means more money for me in my pocket as an individual owner.
Yeah, and I think too, there was already an agreement in place for Steve Cohen to become the owner at some point.
Yeah, and then it
So
fell
that same,
apart.
yeah, that same round, but I'm pretty sure like that there was no real opposition by the ownership group.
I mean,
Then
I don't think owners would be upset if Steve Cohen was to buy the Mets. The thing that you need to worry about is how does the vetting process with baseball go in terms of can he pass the vetting process? Can this vetting process be passed where it's okay, we're going to pass through this vetting process. He's going to be able to get through it with no problem. And Major League Baseball is going to be able to approve him. He didn't go through the full vetting process, but Major League Baseball didn't feel comfortable with his dealings when the thing fell apart. Could it be that Rob Manfred is in, the Wilpons are in Rob Manfred's pocket and he's looking out for his protected interest? It could be, but I don't necessarily know for sure if that is the quote unquote reason why it fell apart. I do think that we need to look at the other ownership groups as well. Uh, the Sixers ownership group is also one of the ownership groups that are vying for the Mets. So if that is able to come to fruition, Michael Rubin and that crew, if they're able to buy the Mets, they have more. They're worth $18 billion. They bought the Sixers, which is like a rounding error to them, and they're doing all right. So if they're serious bidders in the fray, then you got two legitimate bidders that are willing to spend whatever money to be able to purchase the Mets. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Major League Baseball's ideal choice. When I speak of Major League Baseball, I mean Rob Manfred and everybody associated with that crew would love to see Alex Rodriguez purchase the Mets because Alex Rodriguez worked for ESPN. He did postseason for Fox. He's rehabilitated his reputation in terms of people know who he is. He's a recognizable face. He's very baseball savvy. So that's what I'm sure Major League Baseball is hoping for. But I don't necessarily know how it translates to an ownership role because you can know baseball left and right, but can you put the people in the right positions to be able to make decisions where you're not the sole decision maker? I don't want you to be the president of baseball operations and the owner. I want you to be the owner, go the hell away and get somebody in here that knows what he's doing. Circa Jed Hoyer, circa maybe Andrew Friedman from Los Angeles. If you could pry him away from the Dodgers, I don't think it's that easy. Circa maybe you get Rick Hahn from Chicago, the White Sox. Maybe they're able to pull that off. I don't know. But what I do know is that you're going to need somebody in here with some baseball experience. That's the one thing that I do want to see. I don't want to see Alex Rodriguez buy the Mets and then say, hey, I'm the president of baseball operations, because I think that would be an unmitigated disaster. I would think so. I don't know how you feel about it as a Met fan, but I think it would be unmitigated disaster.
I think it would be as well. I mean, like, you have him pairing up with Jennifer Lopez
Mm-hmm.
as one of the principal investors in this bid. There's
Mm-hmm.
also been talks that somebody else was willing to up their bid within that group,
Mm-hmm.
spearheaded by Alex Rodriguez. I made a video about that earlier today, and that seemingly they don't
He
know if
got
he's
he got he got Warren Buffett in his back pocket. He got people invested with Google. He got all these different investment hedge funds ready to roll. But from what I'm hearing, that only puts him at about 1.7 billion. If you're gonna sell the Met, and I know 1.7 billion sounds absurd. I know, right? We throw these numbers around like, yo, give me half, give me a quarter, 1.7 billion, and I'll be all right. But I'm just saying in terms of Major League Baseball, 1.7 billion.
that's
That's
light.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, bro. That's
especially
very light for a team.
especially a team in New York. That's
Yeah.
why if you're A-Rod, you got to get to at least 2.3, 2.4. Because what the Mets was original at, what were the original asking price? What was it, like 2.6? right?
2.6 was the reported sale between Cohen and
About
the Mets. Yeah.
right. So if you even get to 2.4, I don't think I think you got to get to close to 3 billion in order for me to look at you and go, all right, we can make it work. I mean, does A-Rod have that kind of pull? Does Major League Baseball back him and kick him some extra cash? Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think if Manfred wanted to put one of the most recognizable faces in the sport in the Mets front office, I think he would be behind Alex Rodriguez. But if the Mets and the Wilpons decide we want to make most money, what the most money we can for us, because remember, Fred is about to kick the can, and Jeff is the young guy. You know what I mean? So Fred wants the recognizable name, and Jeff wants the guy that's going to make him the most money. Where Fred wants the guy that everybody knows. Look at who he sold the Mets to. Look at this. You know what I mean? He wants to put that on his gravestone when he finally kicks the can. Where Fred's like, damn, now where Jeff's like, damn that. I want to be able to make the most bank and retire and get the hell up out of here and not worry about having to do this anymore. You know?
There
So
was a rumor going out there that the Mets, being that negotiations did fall apart with Steve Cohen, were looking to get more than 200 million more from Steve Cohen than they were from other bidders. Do you think there's any credence to that? I mean, we're going on the realm of conspiracy theory, but do you think that there could be any conspiracy theory that, being that Cohen did offer approximately more than 250 million than the other bidders?
see, here's the thing. If you're gonna tell me that you're gonna try and get an additional 250 million out of Steve Cohen, you already got him to the table at 2.6 billion. What are you trying to get another 250 billion out of him for? For what? Just to say you beat him and say, oh yeah, we got an extra 250 mil. That's a rounding error, bro. That's a call. You ain't doing nothing. That's a couple whips in a crib. Like, come on, bro. If you thinking as smartly as we think you thinking, I mean, I don't see where getting an extra 250 million in the grand scheme of things makes sense to me.
Do you think that the as far as for the Wilpons, that it was a failure on their part, that the first deal fell apart for 2.6 billion, only to come back
Yes,
around and
yes,
and squeeze two out of your boy that they're supposedly trying to spite? They shoot themselves for 600 million.
dude. Are you kidding me right now, Joe? Put your microphone back on, bro. We gotta have a dialogue about this. So you telling me? Are you seriously telling me, for God's sakes, you're gonna blow up a deal for an additional 250 million when you got 2.6 billion in the bag?
And it
You
was
got it in the
reported 2.6
bag.
for 80% stake of the Mets. It wasn't even like,
Look at that.
and now it's 100% for two. It's very Metsian, like, for these things to go down like this. But I hope that
What do
the
you
last
look?
Metsian sale
I gotta
of the Mets.
I gotta say this. If the Wilpons don't get nowhere between 2.7 or at least close to 3 billion, you failed. If the Mets end up selling for anywhere between 2.2 and 2.5, that's a failure. You had 2.6 on the original buy. How do you what? How
And
do
that
you
is,
go down?
and I mean, I don't know if people like my anticipation for the sale of the Mets, I thought would have been way higher than even 2.5 billion. Like, that is
In
pretty
New
light
York,
for a team in New
in
York.
New York alone should have got you to $3 billion.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you suck. Look, the Kansas City Royals sold for what? 2.4? David Glass bought the Kansas City Royals for what? 2.4 billion, right?
Hmm.
Kansas City sold for 2.4 billion. That means if you sell for anything other than 3 billion in New York, you failed. On the strength of David Glass bought the Kansas City Royals for 2.4 billion when nobody goes to the yard. Nobody goes to Kansas City Royal games. I'm sorry if there's any Royal fans watching this, but are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
And what the Mets are getting from the second highest bidders
Good Lord. And you
are,
gotta said why. You
yeah, the
listen,
what Well, supposedly the SNY isn't part of the deal, but they say that Cohen did offer $2 billion for SNY in addition to the $2 billion that he's offered for the
So
Mets.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. You just if my math serves me correctly, Fred and Jeff Wilpon would have walked away with $4 billion or in excess of $4.6 billion for the Mets and SNY.
No. The in the initial deal, the $2 billion, the money, the bid wasn't put in for SNY. They made it seem as if the SNY was off the table in its entirety. But now that he's come back as the highest bidder in the second round of bidding, reportedly he's offered $2 billion for SNY, which is a good deal. I think SNY is a fine network.
The fact that they're holding on to SNY is asinine. Sell it. Sell it. Sell it along with the Mets. Make yourself a cool 3 point whatever billion. Sell it. What are you doing holding on to it? Sell it, and so you don't have to spare the added expense of having a television network that you don't really want to begin with. Sell the network. For heaven's sake, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean,
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to say sell the network, but when you got a guy willing to pay $2 billion plus whatever money he's willing to buy your team, come on, bro. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What
I mean,
sense does that make?
I think I can speak for all Mets fans in saying that we want nobody but Cohen to buy this team. I mean, seemingly as far as his business goes, it seemed like he put a lot of money into IT and information, and you look at that, maybe a lateral move when it comes to owning a baseball team as to putting it into analytics and farm, which the Mets have always sucked with the farm and all these outside auxiliary things. The Mets have always sucked at investing into it. In addition to being bad owners. Speaking,
which is you know how I feel about development of players and young players and all that stuff. I think that's a key component to winning any type of championship. You have to be able to develop young players, especially when you're paying your major league players the money that they're going to be paid. You have to make sure you have somebody in the system that is ready to come up and produce right now. And the Mets didn't really pay attention to that outside of maybe Pete Alonso, David Wright, Ahmed Rosario, maybe, and Jose Reyes. Am I fair in saying those are the four key minor league acquisitions that we looked at and went, that worked. It worked, but we could have did more.
And pitchers, and the
right
and the arms
with DeGrom and Syndergaard and Harvey and so. By the way, not to go back on revisionist history to WKRP days, but I don't know if you were there. You might have been there. You might have not been there. This was I would yell about this every so often in the station. Shout out to Alyssa and everybody, the whole crew.
Ivan, Nick,
everybody, yeah.
Emilio.
Do you remember when I would yell about how the Mets needed to trade 2 pitchers and how they needed to restock the system? And everybody
you were telling me
like I was.
You were telling me this right before the DeGrom sign too.
Okay, so you remember this, right?
I do.
So how is it that we're at this point now? Matt Harvey's not in baseball anymore. Steven Matz might be a bullpen option. Noah Syndergaard's having Tommy John surgery, and Jacob deGrom got lowball. How did you have the Fantastic Five, and you turned 2 of them into obsolete pitchers in Matt Harvey and Steven Matz? You turned Matt Harvey into the Dark Knight gone Heath Ledger.
Wheeler bounced to Philadelphia.
Yeah, Wheeler got a bag and a half from the Phillies. You didn't even bring him back. Oh, and by the way, Noah Syndergaard blew out his arm and he missed the whole 2020 season. How in God's name do you turn that fearsome foursome or dynamic
five
to this? Why is it that nobody, and I mean nobody other than myself, and I'll pat myself on the back for this because I don't usually do that often, but I think I deserve it. In this instance, why were you not thinking about trading any of those guys for the betterment of your organization when you knew you couldn't keep any of them? And then you see what they do with the Stroman deal, and you're like, so wait a minute. Not only did you trade Jarred Kelenic for a closer that you could have signed in Zach Britton for free, but you traded Jarred Kelenic for a 35-year-old second baseman with limited range coming off a steroid plagued season? Wait a minute. Are you telling me you got rid of who many consider maybe baby Mike Trout? I've heard comps of Ken Griffey Jr. Are you telling me that you traded this away for a closer you could have gotten for free and a second baseman with no range, and you turned Marcus Stroman into Anthony Kay and I mean, good Lord, man.
No, I wasn't tripping on the Stroman trade because I've never been really high on Anthony Kay, but Anthony Kay is gonna break that rotation with the Blue Jays. I think he's gonna be a 4 or 5 starter.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And had he been on the Mets farm, he would have been a 4th or 5th starter with the Mets, and I think they would have not signed Porcello maybe, or Waka. But yeah, it's the Mets, man. And the thing is too that what hurts about this more is that the Mets didn't have much of a farm to begin with. We still don't got a farm.
Right.
Alonso was a revelation, but we didn't anticipate Alonso's production.
No.
We weren't counting on it, like, if you will.
No. And his glove is much better than people, give it credit for now, which wasn't the case when he first came up. So you might have hit a home run there, but eventually he's gonna get sick of this and go, nah, dude, I want out of here because you guys, you're wasting my prime years, which is why I love Mike Trout. You know how I feel about Mike Trout. Mike Trout signing with the Angels is the equivalent of dying on the vine. I know it's beautiful weather. I know it's Anaheim. Nobody bothers you. You do your business and you get out. But if it's about winning, Anaheim's the last place I want to be. I'm sorry. It's the last place I want to be because, number one, nobody watches your games. You're not watched by many people unless you're a hardcore baseball enthusiast like myself who would stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning just to see Mike Trout hit 4 times. That's not something that most baseball fans would do. So you don't want to let Pete Alonso turn into Mike Trout, where he loves your franchise, he loves everything about you, but he senses, this just doesn't make sense for me in my career to stay here.
And Pujols is gonna play out that contract. You better believe.
Oh God,
Pujols ain't budget, bro. That's 2022, I think, too, isn't it?
Look, I gotta be honest with you. Whoever signed the Albert Pujols, listen. I think Artie Moreno was hammered when he signed that Albert Pujols contract. Hammered, just absolutely hammered. He had to not been sober. How do you sign a first baseman, 31 years old, already got feet injury? What are we doing here? What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, and that's the same offseason he signed Josh Hamilton and freaking the kid, the pitcher Wilson to 5-year deals. Artie Moreno, are you okay? I wanted to drug test them myself. Yo, do me a favor. Go take a leak in this cup and bring it back and let me test you.
And for a few years before that, it seemed like Artie Moreno just wanted to break the bank on a lot of dudes, and it didn't work out his way. And almost everybody he wanted to sign sucked. But then he waited to sign Hamilton and Pujols. I mean, the thing is too, they have a semblance of a lineup.
Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon. I gotta be honest with you. That Anthony Rendon signing, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. That is, quote unquote, that's the epitome of a good signing. Anthony Rendon makes sense if you're winning, if you're about to win. But I get Anthony Rendon taking the money and going, listen, man, 7 years at $245 million. I can't beat that. I'm gonna have to take this. By the way, that lineup's not half bad. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Anthony Rendon. It's not that bad. It's not terrible. Tommy La Stella. It's. I mean, if you're a baseball fan and you know good lineups, that's a solid lineup. However, outside of Shohei Ohtani, who's pitching for the Angels on the days he don't pitch? I mean, who's pitching for them? You know, it's a very very delicate situation if you're in the Angels right now. I know we're going basically all around baseball, but it's you know, you see how this all correlates with each other, and you're like, one deal probably necessitates others, and you see how everything affects everything. Nothing is done in a vacuum. These teams all look at each other and go, how do we make each other better?
As far as something that is going to have a big time effect on things with this signing that we had today with Mookie going to the Dodgers, a lot of people were counting on the great free agency class of 2021. The biggest chip amongst that class is now out. What do you think as far as the remaining crop? Like, I mean, we do have some good outfielders. Actually, you got
Muto, James Paxton,
Springer.
Well, I think the Astros give a bag to George Springer. I'm gonna be honest with you. If the Astros don't sign George Springer, they need to do something, because George Springer is elite. That's elite level talent right there that you got to keep. You got to keep it. So I think the Angels re-sign George Springer. I think James Paxton is an interesting one, because if I'm the Yankees, I don't re-sign him. I let him go. I let him walk. I let Michael King, or the kid we just saw, Clark Schmidt, who looked filthy in summer camp, take his spot and just say, okay, we'll pay you when it's time to pay you. But James Paxton, with his injury history and everything that he has going on, is he dynamic off the mound? Yeah. But I don't necessarily know how I view him on the mound. If he can stay healthy for a full 32 starts, I don't know if I give him that much money, but I can see a team that's desperate for pitching, circa the Atlanta Braves, circa the Toronto Blue Jays, circa the Milwaukee Brewers, give them a nice little bag and go, here, we need some pitching, so sign with us.
I think he's going to get a big bag, man. Like, I think he's going to get more than Wheeler got. I think he's a better pitcher than Wheeler.
If he's healthy.
Yeah, and when he's healthy. Same thing with Wheeler.
If he's healthy. Yeah, and that's why Zach Wheeler's money was so low, because with Zach Wheeler's stuff, let's be honest. If Zach Wheeler's healthy, Zach Wheeler he has an arm that's worth close to $200 million.
Yeah.
Health permitting, the guy's arm is that good. So, and we're talking in James Paxton's case, we're talking about a lefty who throws in excess of 98, who has great off-speed stuff, who was intimidating on the mound, who's pitched now in the playoffs and pitched well, I might add. He wasn't terrible.
Pitched in Yankee Stadium, too.
And did well against one of the vaunted lineups in the league. So we know how James Paxton pitches in big moments because we've seen it. But I don't necessarily know if Brian Cashman's like, I want to give him the quote-unquote long-term stamp. So that's why I think he's a guy that gets affected. I think George Springer's an interesting case. Realmuto's another interesting case. And let me spin this forward and ask you this, bro. Joe, he's in your division, Philadelphia Phillies. Does this put pressure on the Phillies to give him, the long-term contract extension? Or do you think, he says, I want to wait it out? Or does he take the Mookie Betts approach and remain in Philadelphia to go with Bryce and the rest of the crew?
It depends, man. I don't know what they would be willing to commit to him, like being that he's a kid. How old is he now? 28 or
about 28? Yeah.
Yeah, like what they would be willing to commit to a 28-year-old catcher. But that's a tough one, man. Like, I mean, like, do you think that he would sign for over like a buck, like Realmuto?
I think if I could get him at 5 at exactly 100, I think he'll take it. I don't want to go no more than 5 for a catcher. That's kind of dicey. But if the DH does come to the National League, I might give him the extra year just to tell him we'll DH you for a little bit, get you off your feet. You don't have to catch 120 games a year. You can catch 90 games a year and DH the rest of it and see how you feel on the back end of that. I wouldn't mind doing that. But
it also comes to a point where, you know, where does he fit in the grand scheme of things? If he hits the free agent market, the Mets need a catcher. Um, a couple teams need a catcher. Toronto needs a catcher. There are a couple teams that need catching that can definitely use him behind the plate. It's just a matter of does he fit into what, you know, Matt Klentak and the rest of that GM and ownership group feel he's warranted. And listen, they love JT Realmuto in Philadelphia. Joe Girardi talked about him the other day, and I read an article in The Athletic where he's gushing over him. And you hear that from many people with the Marlins as well, which is why, you know, when they traded him, they tried to fleece a couple teams, your Mets included, where they tried to get a 3-team deal done with Syndergaard going to the Yankees and JT going to the Mets and Gary Sanchez going to Miami, and which feels like 10 years ago, but it was just maybe like 2.5 years ago. And I remember you calling me about that too. It's like, yo, what do you have on this? I'm like, I'm working on it. And it never got close, but there was a moment there at the winter meetings in 2018 where I said, holy shit, this actually just might happen. And it didn't, but they got serious there for a second. And you know, JT is one of the most premier catchers in the game. I mean, there's only a select few. You have JT, you have Yachty, you have Gary, you have there's only a select few catchers that you look at and go, yeah, that's the guy I want.
And none make it a free agency. I mean, like, you know, it's very hard for a good catcher to make it a free agency.
No, because you see what the Cardinals did with Yachty. They locked him up 3 times already, 3 separate deals. Like, bro, we're not even letting you see other colors than St. Louis. Now, could I see the Yankees doing the same thing with Sanchez?
Nah, that's not gonna happen, bro.
Maybe not.
I don't know, bro. It's like that's a tough one. I think that a lot of Sanchez, man. But
Sanchez, listen, if he's healthy and he's on his game, that's like Pudge Rodriguez reborn. The guy is the bat, the arm, the pass balls. We got to work on. We got to work on that. We need you to get down and lay off the frijoles, lose some weight, and let's get. You know what I mean? I'm with you on that part. But
no, and Sanchez when he's on too might be a top 3 hitter in that lineup. Like too, like
I gotta tell you, between him and Gleyber Torres, they might be the best hitters on the Yankees. If both are healthy, they're can I tell you right now, Gleyber Torres is the best player on the Yankees. And that's saying something with Aaron Judge, Sanchez, Stanton. Gleyber Torres right now, best player on the Yankees.
No, he is a dynamo, man. Like, but speaking of the Yankees, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he's 22 years old. I just wanted to put it out there.
As far as fantasy trades go, I know you were opposed to this before, but would you be willing to throw up Gleyber Torres for Frankie?
No. Because I could get Frankie production from a 22-year-old and don't have to pay him until 4 years from now.
Yeah, as Frankie's a beast though too, bro. And Frankie's in New York.
Frankie's an animal, but Frankie right now gives me everything Gleyber gives me, and Gleyber might be a better hitter.
Gleyber is a better hitter than Frankie.
And we ain't got nothing to talk about.
Yeah, the only thing with Gleyber, like as far as the shortstop goes, like Frankie's just gotta.
Yeah, I'm dicey on Gleyber at shortstop. I gotta be honest. When Didi left, I was kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this because I'm not sure about Gleyber's range. Like he doesn't have the lateral range of a Didi, of a Frankie, of a Seager, where you can go 5-hole left field, cover up the middle, and cover in the hole. Like, you got to be a special sort of shortstop to be able to do all 3. Circa Alex Rodriguez in his prime, circa Nomar. Listen, I'm the biggest Derek Jeter fan you'll find. But that's who Gleyber Torres is as a shortstop. Limited range, good arm, strong arm, but he has trouble going away from the ball. Where you see good shortstops, good shortstops with range can get there, make the throw, and still be all right. Which is what Didi gave you as a Yankee fan for the last 4 seasons after DJ retired. And people look at me like, you're nuts. There's no way. How can you say that that Gleyber Torres is a better shortstop than that Didi was a better shortstop than Jeter? I
He
was like,
was.
you see Didi's glove? Didi's glove is magician-like. Okay? Before he blew out his elbow, he was probably one of the most underrated shortstops in the game. Oh, and by the way, he's left-handed.
He was, and early on, he was like the best Yankee, like for a couple months.
Hey, man, you got to remember, he carried them in the middle of 18. He was the guy home at every day, once a day, for like a month straight, and was unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm gonna miss him. They got a gem in Philadelphia, and that lineup with that's another thing. Look at Philadelphia's line. Are you kidding me?
There's a lot of good, like there's a lot of good teams
Oh
that
my
repivoted,
God.
man. Even the Reds, bro. The Reds look like a decent team right now. Like,
listen, I gotta say something right now. The Reds are going to the World Series, brother. Listen to me.
It's a little tough.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Name me a better starting rotation than the one that's in Cincinnati right now. We could go through the names. We could break this down. Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, Diego Castillo, Anthony DeSclafani. Oh, by the way, the bullpen's not bad with Iglesias as your closer. We could do this. Michael Lorenzen. We could do this. And the lineup's not that bad.
No, the lineup's good, man. I like that lineup.
Suarez and Aquino and friggin' Votto, who we're not even talking about anymore. Like Joey Votto fell off the face of the earth. Like Joey Votto could still have productive seasons. Let's not act like Joey Votto is
Joey Votto ain't no bum, bro. That's no. There's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of teams that have retooled. I think the White Sox could be not dancing in the World Series, but they ain't gonna be an easy out. I mean, I'm not gonna say San Diego, bro, because I get that wrong almost every year, bro. And I know you're always rooting for the Padres too, bro, like to put it together. But there's a lot of good teams.
But let me just make this official because I know you hear the phone going off.
Yeah,
the movie bets deal, it's done. The deal is done. The deal is 12 years at $365 million.
Wow.
It's a done deal. He's getting 10 million this year. The sheer number of the contract, if you do the value of the contract on top of the extension he just signed, because remember, he just signed a deal with the Red Sox for like 27 and a half before this. The total value of his contract is 12 years at $392 million. So he's on the doorstep of 400.
That's good, man. Good for him. No, I mean, I think that this is gonna be the threshold. Like, we're in this threshold right now for premier players in baseball. The 36 per year, like, is gonna be like the almost a standard with these good players that are coming up. I don't know. You think Springer touches that?
Springer doesn't touch 400 million, but I think he touches somewhere in between 275 and 300. He gets Manny Bryce money, which ain't bad.
No, definitely.
Which ain't bad.
Yeah, so I'm
good at math, man. All I'm saying is I'm good at math. Because what I had it at what? Like, my sources had it at 13 and 380. So I was off by maybe about 12 million.
Nah, it's pretty. That's still good money, man. But good for them though.
Wow.
The Dodgers, the Dodgers got to start. The only thing with the Dodger lineup, for some reason, it doesn't have the oomph, man. Like, they don't have the real the classical power hitter. Like,
they got plenty of oomph now.
Now, but they're all around. They got a really, really good lineup.
Oh my Lord, man! Woo!
Yeah.
Listen, and you gotta give everybody involved in this boatloads of credit because everybody says, "Oh yeah, well, it's too much money," and it's like, yeah, it's too much money, but let's not act like it's this is crazy. By the way, he also gets a $65 million signing bonus. Just want to throw that out there. Wow. So he gets a $65 million signing bonus. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh
good
my
for him.
God. Get your money, young man. I ain't mad at you. And then, I love when they say, oh, yeah, they paid him too much. They did pay him too much. But so the hell what? He's worth it.
But there's a lot of these players like your Coles, like your Rendons, like Betts now that don't seem like bad deals. It's
Not at
always worth
all.
it to sign good players. Like the risk is better with players like a Betts rather than a Weaver or something. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right, right. Yo, this is. Listen, you guys are lucky. You're seeing me actually report stuff while I'm on the air with this guy. He's seen me do this before. I'm sure you have stories for people. So
that the legend of Steph grows amongst us, bro. Like because people think I'm bullshitting regarding the man getting scoops, and he don't tell me who his connects are yet. And this guy hasn't even gone to the winter meetings yet. Our dream, like we always talk about going to the winter meetings, which we're gonna do one year, man. Like hopefully
one year, man. Hopefully, when COVID dissipates,
and
we
I'm
can
pretty
we
sure
can
that
make.
you'll come out of the winter meetings with a job. Hopefully by the Mets, bro. the Yeah, but I wanted to end this stream now, man. Thanks for coming through though too, Steph. Like I always dream you.
Appreciate it.
Do you mind coming on again, like for the segments throughout the year?
Listen, man. Just call me. Let me know when. If I'm not busy working on some stories, if I'm not, working like a madman, I'll definitely come on again. We can do this again, and because we didn't even talk NBA, we didn't even talk football. This was just baseball centric today. So, yeah, man, I'll come back on again soon. Just let me know when and where.
Yeah, and shout out to the whole 27 ounce crew, Nick, to Emilio, to my
Yeah,
man's
yeah,
Ivan,
yeah.
um, if the people that made 27 ounce pop off to the featured guest. Shout out to the whole
Yeah.
WKRB, to Chad,
Right.
to
To Miss Truth, everybody,
Truth,
everybody. Yeah.
to
Word.
Lisa, Rob. You know what I'm
Word.
saying? Like it would be good to get
Everybody.
up with the WKRB crew again too, man. Like for
Everybody, man. This was the genesis of being this guy's relationship, and I'm glad we're able to continue this relationship. So,
no,
um,
and as far as how I met Steph too, it was when I was trying to get onto WKRB, and my dad
mhm,
was like pretty much on his deathbed that day. And I remember I went to the station to talk to them and let them know that I wasn't gonna be able to come through that day, like for training or something, because of my
mhm,
dad's condition. And I see this
mhm.
dude it's holding court with a couple of other cats, and they're all spitting, bro, like spitting baseball knowledge. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
this is not about the Yankees and Mets only. Like these dudes are talking about like Houston Farm and like the bullpen of LA. Like I'm like, yo, these cats are spitting, bro. Like and they're all young too. I was like, I gotta get to the station, man. I wish like I would have done more as far as with the 27 ounce crew, like but time is of the
I
essence,
mean,
and
listen, time is of the essence. We understand that. By the way, if I could do this cheap plug at the end of the show, the
absolutely.
Nick and the Nick and Steph show actually starts Tuesday, August 4th, Facebook Live. We might even try to set something like this up. I'm gonna talk to Joe and talk to my other crew and see if we can get something like this started. But August 4th, 6 p.m. We're doing it like that to give people time to get home and all this stuff like that. But we might change the time. Me and my co-hosts are talking about this now. But yeah, man, we want to have you on as a guest one of these days to reciprocate the favor, brother. And we'd love to have you and have you, drop some of your knowledge and your jewels on us. But thank you for having me, man. And I want to do this again. This was fun.
Nah, definitely, man. And let the people know where they can find you again, please.
You can find me on Twitter at Stephen Martinez, my name. That's Stephen, and Martinez is pretty much self-explanatory. Stephen3CM on Twitter. That's Stephen3CM, short for Three Clips Media. By the way, follow the Three Clips Media page, threeclipsmedia.com. Get yourself a bluntly stated shirt. We're gonna have some shirts up there for ourselves too. So follow me there, and also follow me. If you want to look at some pictures, some fresh J's, or me just lounging, I'm at Stefan Martinez 300 on Instagram. So again, thank you for having me, Joe. Man, it was a pleasure, and we got to do this again soon.
Oh, and shout out to the Bluntly Stated crew too. My bad, bro. I forgot about Son, man. Like, you know,
yeah, man, Rick and the whole crew and everybody over there at Three Clips Media's family, bro. So we have to shout them out as well. But again, man, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it, and we got to do this again soon.
Nah, definitely, man. And thank you guys that tuned in today. Thank you for stepping into the Five Playland. With that, as always, I'm your Five Player, and I'm out. Peace.